I did something that I've never done before or since at any poker table, or pretty much in my life actually, because he was being such an arsehole.
Welcome to a new episode of The Sweetest Deal. This time I'm talking to a guy I've known for almost 20 years. I met him for the first time at the Monte Carlo Millions in 2005, my first tournament as a reporter. His name is Barny Boatman, and now 19 years later, he won the PokerStars EPT in Paris just recently for his biggest cash, 1.2 million euros. We're going to talk about the old days. We're going to talk about the years where he started playing and what he has done since, and of course, what he's doing today. This episode is in partnership with Every Game Poker. I hope you will enjoy this because I really enjoyed talking to Barny. So we are doing one more episode of The Sweetest Deal. This time I'm talking to a guy I met almost 20 years ago. His name is Barny Boatman, and he's kind of revived in a way. Barny, how are you?
Excuse me, I'm good. Yeah, I've got a bit of a cold, but apart from that, I'm in pretty good form at the moment. Yeah.
Yeah. I guess you were. We were many people watching you on the live stream in Paris recently. Did you have a bit of a cold there as well? Because you had a bit of a cough, or is that something you have all the time?
But I do actually. I've been coughing ever since I had COVID 4 years ago, on and
Oh my
off.
god.
I'm kind of I catch colds quite easily. But other than that, I'm in pretty good shape, I think, for my venerable age.
Yeah. What are you now? Is this something you talk about? I think I read it
Well,
somewhere.
I mean, it's been published all over the place. I can't deny it. I'm 68.
Yeah, it's a good age. Do you feel good for
Yeah.
being 68?
I mean, I'm alive. That's good for 68,
That's
right?
pretty good. That's better than some. Yeah, that's great. Of course, you came back in a way now, being. For some people who didn't know you before, for some of the younger guys, but I mean, it's. We're going to talk a bit about the tournament. Are you one that goes back through a tournament, looking back and thinking about what you did every day, or is that history now?
No, I do. I mean, obviously, hands that get streamed, that you can look back at, they stick in your mind more because you get reminded of them. But there are other hands as well that that I remember. Not so many now, but I remember more phases of the tournament.
Yeah,
And how it was going at certain stages. I mean, it's a real epic thing to play for 6 days.
yeah.
And you start with a very deep stack, and you play that. And to be honest, that's the best part of my game. In very very deep stack time
Yeah.
when you can
Would
you
you
can
say
yeah
that?
go.
Would you say that it's important in the early, because some people like to come in after a couple of levels, but I mean, when it's really deep, it's from the start. So you would never miss the first level, would you?
I really try not to miss a hand. I mean, I love my favourite bit of the tournament is when you sit down. Not everyone's sat at the table yet, and you're playing very deep and short-handed.
Yeah.
And quite often you get opportunities at that stage. Um, so personally, I try not to miss it. But having said that, on this particular occasion, I went out on the first bullet. Quite unusual for me. I went out, sort of quite early before the dinner break, and I went to dinner and decided to. I really wanted to have the day be off uh, because I had some plans and because I knew I was just very tired and I wanted a rest on day B. So I went back, um, still pretty deep,
Yeah.
but but relatively late, and I had a good last couple of hours, and it worked out for me. So you never know.
No, of course. I mean, it's all, there's several issues that makes it good to play in the start because, no offense, but usually there are quite often at least a few weak players, and if you're lucky, on your table as well. Did you experience that on your second bullet?
I wouldn't have taken offence unless you said no offence. Are you talking about me?
No, I mean
Um,
I mean
no,
your opponents, of
I know,
course.
I know, I know. I mean, obviously, in the early stages, you're more likely to get a variety of players, and it's all about figuring out who you're up against and working out who to target and who's playing how. And obviously doing what your cards tell you to do as well. But yeah, I mean, you get The great thing is you can get involved in a hand, and if it goes wrong, you might only lose 5% of your tips or
Yeah.
whatever. And it's knowing how to get the most value out of situations, then when you do connect or whatever, and knowing when you can push people off hands, and you can go a long way. I mean, actually, I went right to the end of day 4 without having a kind of all in and on their backs kind of coup. And I had, and I had an all-in call. I made a call on the river on day 4, but then, it was actually having made that call. I don't think I was ever all in the tournament in the whole, I did play 2 or 3 flips with the guy who came third, which were the only hands that I lost in the pre. I ran very good in the pre-handed, and but I mean, obviously, everybody wants to not be all in, and it's not, that I'm some genius. I wasn't, but it just worked out that way. And I do really try to. I mean, I think other players look for those situations a lot sooner than I do. They look for the queens against the ace king or whatever,
Yeah.
or or the nines against the ace jack or whatever it is. And I really try to keep my head down and avoid, one big pot that's going to be all or nothing for as long as I can.
Yeah, it's almost like you would, let's say you're in for 5% of your stack and you have ace king. Is it possible for you, if someone goes raise it really, really high, that you would consider lay it down when it's a really deep tournament?
I've had coups where I've laid that down ace king without putting a single chip in the pot.
Yeah.
If the action goes in such a way before me that I think that one of the players has got a decent pair and the other player's got a big ace, even if the other player's got ace queen, what do I want to be in this pot for?
Yeah.
If I've got another fold equity against the pair, because the pair is favored against me.
Yeah.
I mean, absolutely. Any player knows that part of the game is knowing. I mean, that ace king goes up massively in value at the the shallower the stacks get.
Of course, yeah.
And you have to play it, especially out of position. You have to play it with a great deal of caution in the early stages.
Yeah. No, I know. It's also, you said that you were all in on day 4. It's a difference to call all in with the nuts, or when you know that you more or less have the hand. Did you have the nuts there, or were you pretty sure that you had it?
Not quite the nuts. It's a hand that got a lot of publicity, actually.
Yeah. The Jack 9 hand.
Yeah. Oh, okay. So yeah.
Yeah, of course I know the Jack 9 hand.
Do you want me to talk about it?
Yeah, sure. Yeah. I think it's interesting with this character, and I mean, I mean, it's important not to offend anyone, but it's an interesting character, Eric Afriat.
Yeah, I'm sure he's a very nice guy. I mean, there was a certain dynamic and a certain chemistry going on at the table. And you kind of like, he's a bit of a performer. And I suppose I respond to that. And I guess it all makes good entertainment as well. Not that we're there to entertain, or certainly that's just a side effect. But like, he certainly was somebody who clearly knew how to use a big stack to put pressure on.
Yeah.
That's obviously a big part of his game, and it's a strong game, And, really, the fact that I called him in that hand on the river is a compliment to him, in many ways, that he was able to make this, putting so many of his chips to get me off as he saw it, exactly the kind of hand that I had.
Yeah.
But I'm a calling station. What can I say? It's not fair.
No, but it's interesting. If you ever, I mean, it's a hunch. There's usually a feeling, a gut feeling, or something. Was it something specific that told you that he was on a draw or out on a semi bluff?
It's easy to go back afterwards and overlay a kind of analysis and say, I saw this, I thought that. I obviously I didn't know,
of course,
for sure, anything like for sure, but it felt like that's the way he would play that kind of hand. If I was him, and I had Jack 10 or something like that, Jack Queen, um, I might well check back the turn. Oh, in fact, I might check back an overpair on the turn.
Yeah.
It doesn't mean that he would. It doesn't mean that, it certainly, it doesn't mean that, I mean, I'm perhaps a little bit more cautious and trappy in the way that I play than some players are, and some players, if they've got, on this texture board, they've got a big pair, they're never going to slow down and switch off. And obviously, he probably would have played aces exactly the same way as he played his hand. But, I think mixed in there was some element of read.
Yeah.
And there was, and there was, and certainly when he took his time to make the bet on the river, and what, and the way he asked me how many chips I had, and the way he played with his chips, like, I kind of seen him a bit do similar things, and and he didn't look that comfortable when I was thinking, and that came into it to some extent.
Yeah.
I can't really say how much. And also, I've said this already on another podcast actually, but the fact that there was so much at stake made me feel more that he would believe that if this was a bluff, that he would get through.
Yeah.
He was more incentivized to make this play in exactly this situation than he might have been in other situations. I've factored that in a bit, and I also just thought about what the consequences would be of me calling or folding, and I probably made an exactly anti-ICM assessment of that, in as much as I kind of felt like, I might be wrong and I'll be out and it'll be just another of those. But if I'm right, wow, I'm going to go to bed chip leader and I've got a real shot and real momentum of doing something really special here.
Of course.
And I don't know exactly, those words didn't go through my head, but, it was a kind of, I weighed up, I felt well over 50%, I felt there was a bluff. And then, so if you feel that, then even just on chip EV, it's a call because I'm getting 2-1, but but then probably ICM, maybe it isn't. I don't know, but like, but in the end, I can't really tell you exactly what went through my head.
No, can I ask you, Barney? Is it when you come to, you have a feeling and you think if you had 5 seconds, you would just call, but during that time when you think, which is unusual for you, is it somewhere where you try to find a way to fold or find a way to, why would I fold?
No, it was more like, there's no need to take a big hurry. This might be your last decision in the tournament. You might as well run over in your head. I kind of decided to call, but I gave myself a moment to, and also I was kind of looking. I kind of looked up. I don't like to stare people down so much. I like to kind of look at them when they're not expecting it, and see if I can pick up a snapshot. I mean, even that, I don't know if it's conscious that I do that, but I've noticed. I've noticed in playbacks and things that's what I do, and I kind of feel like, I don't really go in for that, kind of.
No.
Because that's going to make people uncomfortable, whatever they've got. You know what I mean? It's better. It's a bit like being the difference between being a portrait photographer and being a photojournalist. I want to get that moment, that unguarded moment, and so I'll kind of glimpse back, and if the moment that comes is extreme uncomfortability, then that helps. But like in the end, I think the truth of the matter is that when I called on the turn, I think that if a blank came, and it was the ultimate blank, really, that came on the river, I was calling.
It's almost like if he would have thought it over a bit and giving you that look, maybe he would know that you would call and he would change his position. You know what I mean?
Yeah, but he was playing his game. Another thing, he didn't have another way to win the pot.
Right.
I take my hat off him. It's very brave to make these plays, and they work a lot of the time.
What is interesting when it comes to a guy like him as well? We've seen speech players before and people who act a lot around the table. It is that when you're on a stage like a poker table, there's so many different. So maybe his antics or whatever you want to call it would work better on someone with less experience than you. Do you know what I mean?
Oh, I'm sure. Yeah. I mean, I think that's true. About any kind of like speech play and stuff. I'm playing at home when it comes to things like that. I mean, I don't know how much difference it makes, but bring it on as far as I'm concerned. If anybody wants to bring that into the game,
Yeah.
I mean, I'm not one of these people. I'm not a Wilkes Cooper. I won't just start jabbering at someone while they're thinking quietly. I'll let them think.
Yeah.
But if they want to engage with me, I'm ready for it.
Yeah, yeah. It was an interesting hand that I thought about because I haven't heard that before. It was really interesting, and the follow-up was interesting. It was when there's a flip between two players, and someone asked, "You want to wish me good luck? Who do you want to win the pot?" And you said a pretty cool thing. I want the weakest player to win the pot. Is that something that I haven't heard anyone express that before? Is that something you thought of before?
No, not really. I mean, but I was trying to find a polite way of avoiding giving a direct answer to the question.
Right. It was good.
Because I wanted to see the back of him, and that's not an insult,
Yeah.
and certainly, the other guy was a very nice guy who was in the pot, and I'm sure a very good player as well. And it wasn't really about that. Can I just go for a second and turn on my doorbell off because someone's ringing my doorbell?
Yeah, go ahead, no problem.
Me mad.
No problem.
Will we be able to take out?
Yeah, I will edit it out. No problem. Go ahead, right. Barny. Yeah.
Yeah, the other guy was a very nice guy and no doubt an excellent player, and I had no reason to funk against him whatsoever.
No.
And yeah, it would have been disrespectful to him to wish the other guy luck. Why would I do that?
Yeah.
I mean, typically what you do is you wish when somebody's short stacked.
Yeah.
You wish them, you wish them good luck.
Of course.
Yeah, and sometimes you mean it more than other times, but it's polite to do so. But yeah.
But oops. What I think is that it's interesting when he said that I think it was Pornakov's. That was in a big flip or in a big hand against you, and then the same situation came up, and he said, "Maybe I will repeat what you said," and you thought of it as an insult. I saw it as a compliment. Do you know why? Because if he wished the worst player will win the pot, he means himself. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, but I don't think that was what he was trying to say. But you're right. Anyway, it was a bit of funny interaction.
Yeah.
And he was a nice guy actually.
Yeah.
He was very relaxed. It was just another day in the office for him, I think. It was quite a small tournament for him.
One of those young, really good players, of course.
Yeah, I mean, I think that he was. I mean, earlier on, I'd said a couple of things, but he actually he hadn't, or he claimed not to understand. My English.
Yeah.
Either because he genuinely didn't, or because he just didn't have an answer, or whatever. But I think that he liked to engage, and he did it in a nice way.
Yeah.
And I thought that was funny.
Yeah, it was funny.
That he called that back in that moment.
Yeah. That's kind of I don't know if he said reverse or if he wanted to repeat what you said, but it was kind of funny and a bit of a twist to it. Anyway, what's quite interesting, you're using some terms and some more modern lingo, poker lingo. I mean, aren't these things that kind of were built in? Let's go back 20, 25 years when you start to play, things that you kind of knew but didn't know the theory for.
Well, yeah, no, I always say that, I used to say in a joking way that, it's like being in a beautiful garden full of lovely flowers that smell delightful, and then all these young kids with clipboards come along and just fill the place with language and just put labels on things and name them all, and but of course there's a lot more to it than that, because they've done a lot of work and they've done a lot of analysis, and they've got the exact numbers for the right size bets to make in different situations, and they can work out exactly how many how much the blockers make a difference and how many whatever, and that's all real, all that stuff. And so some of the big concepts, all of a sudden people started talking about effective stacks or whatever.
Yeah.
Things like that's not a big concept, but it's a piece of language that appeared relatively recently. And of course, we were always aware of the idea of the effective stack without ever having a term for it. There's lots of those, but it's useful actually. It's useful to have that terminology.
Yeah.
If you're going to discuss it. I mean, that's one of the things that's changed about the game. I guess when I started playing, we never really talked about it
No.
that much in that way. I mean, there were never under the table cameras, so nobody ever knew what you were doing unless the hands got shown down. And if you had a game that depended on hands really not getting shown down very much, there was no, nobody knew what you were doing, and so I guess then they couldn't criticize it, and you couldn't learn from their criticism.
Right.
It has, I'm not a grumpy old man who kind of goes, "Oh, kids today, they think they know everything." I mean, the fact of the matter is they do know everything.
Yeah.
And I'm full of admiration, and I wish I had the energy to do more work and study more stuff, but there again, my game, I do try to develop my game. I do try to watch and come up with responses to the things that I see happening. And it's kind of served me well enough.
Yeah.
I don't think I'm a top or an elite player, and I don't think the fact that I've got this result, changes who I am. But it's a reminder that my game gets me there a lot.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then if it's my day, I can go that final furlong.
Yeah. I mean, of course, you had. It's a long tournament, and you had good cards when you were down to 3, no doubt about it.
Yeah.
But still, there are some keys that they don't have that you have. Is it something specific that you would say, yeah, experience, but what is it else that you have that they might not have?
I think that I improvise.
Right.
And I think that that obviously doesn't always work, and sometimes it might be very stupid, and sometimes, you can look at it and say, well, what does he think he's representing here? That's ridiculous. But by and large, if I do make those kind of mistakes, they're probably going to be in small parts anyway.
Yeah.
But I think that I can wrong foot people by, I can notice that they think a certain kind of bet means a certain thing. And so, a particular player is more likely to exploit what he sees as weakness in a particular situation, so you can then reproduce that sense of weakness in the hand when you're really strong. I guess because I don't always know the correct GTO thing to do in a particular situation, I'll try and think of something imaginative to do, and that might it might not make me the best player, but it probably makes me a very difficult opponent.
Yeah, I mean, those who play GTO, if you play different than optimal, maybe they will be tricked because they count on that you should play optimal, and they get fooled by it.
I mean, if it was that simple.
No, but I mean,
yeah. I mean, I think there's an element of that. Yeah, I think that's right. I mean, I think that. Hopefully, it's more conscious on my part.
Yeah.
That I'm kind of I can see what it means. What it means or what they think it means when a certain thing happens, and I can kind of, and maybe what I'm saying is that under certain circumstances, you can actually exploit GTO players. which is supposed to be axiomatic. The definition of GTO is it's unexploitable, isn't it? But I don't think anybody plays a perfect game, with maybe one or two exceptions, I mean, by the way, the guy who came third, I thought he was an extraordinarily good player.
Yes, he was really good.
And given the level playing field of cards pretty handy, I don't imagine I'd get the better of him that often, but I don't know. But it was certainly a challenge. And the other guy was very good as well. I don't think the other guy had the live experience, and I think that kind of made a little bit of difference. But in the end, like you say, in the pre-handed, it was the cards, and the last hand was a real tough spot for him.
Yeah.
Because he was quite deep going into that hand, and he had kind of exactly the hand that you don't when you're 30 blinds deep or whatever it was he had, you really don't want to just throw away for a free bet, but nor do you really want to get it all in. And had it come a different flop, if it had come an ace-side flop, I would have led out and it would have taken a few chips off me.
Yeah.
But the flop under those circumstances was absolutely perfect.
Yeah.
He had the strongest hand that I was beating.
Yes. And that he would call with too. So it was perfect.
Yeah, it was. I mean, when he called me on the flop, I actually thought, oh, I really hope he's got ace-9.
Yeah.
This is perfect if he's got ace-9, and that makes sense that he would have it. And I think in his shoes, I would make the call that he made on the river. In fact, I probably would have shoved the flop with his hand.
Yeah.
Because like if I've got king queen or something, and he just calls, I might hit the front. If I know that I'm probably going to call again on a blank turn, I probably shove the flop with his hand, and it's all over one street sooner.
Yeah.
But it was just an absolute setup, that hand.
Yeah.
I was expecting, I mean, as soon as we went to heads up, my idea was right. I'm going to really rank it up now. I'm going to just raise with everything. I'm going to put the pressure on. Hopefully, by the time he finds a big hand, he'll have already lost half of his chips.
Yeah.
But it just, I was really expecting most likely that the heads up was going to last a long time.
Yeah, of course. And I guess you were relieved by I don't say. I mean, it's been long days, but at the same time, it is a lot of pressure. Did you feel the pressure there, and did you feel exhausted in a way, three-handed and heads up?
Well, funnily enough, the previous day I was really exhausted because the previous day I hadn't slept. I didn't sleep the night of day 4. So day 5, I had zero sleep off the back of several nights of very little sleep, and I was absolutely shattered. And I actually went in there with not a game plan, but with a kind of with an idea that I was going to really try and hold on to that stack and look for little opportunities, but try not to make big moves, which would result in me having big decisions to make.
Right.
On flop, turn, and river, because I just was really, really under par on day 5. But I kind of perked up a bit, and I can never not have a go a little bit here and there. But I never really played a big pot on day 5, and I managed to just go up by another couple of million, and I was in the top 3 going into the final. So that was when I felt a kind of pressure.
Yeah, I understand.
A physical pressure, but in the final, it was kind of obvious the way it was almost certainly going to go, that the 3 very short stacks were probably going to go out.
Yeah.
And then the other 3 of us were going to, I decided to play a little bit of rope-a-dope right at the beginning of that and try and look a bit passive, but then take advantage quite quickly. And then what happened, it was perfect, obviously, because I just hit some out. I mean, the real turning point, there was one massive turning point hand, which was that I limped in the small with 10-7 suited, and Kaufman had just checked behind me, and it came 7-7. 6 or something like that. I just thought to myself, but I'm going to lead out small. He's almost bound to have at least 2 overs. He's going to have something. And if it really disguises the strength of my hand if I lead out, because a lot of times I've just tried to steal those small pots.
Of course,
little bets, and then switched off on the turn when someone's called me and I haven't hit anything. So I thought I'll do that, and he did call, and now it came a 10 on the turn to give me a house, and now I was like, right, well, I hope he's got something. I'm going to check and continue the story that I was just, having a pop on the flop and I'd given up, And then so when he called me, now I can think. I think this was when I used my second time back in tournament. Was having a long think before calling his turn bet.
Yeah.
And then it came there's already a pair on the board, but it came a card on the river, which completed a lot of straights, which completed the flush draw, and
like a jack or a six or something.
Yeah, and what did it come on the river? Yeah, I can't remember, but it was eight. I think the 8.5.
Yeah.
Anyway, it seemed to me that if I put a small bet in that looked like I was just trying to do a stopper bet and try and get there with two pair or whatever and not have to place a big bet, that it would either if he had nothing or if he had what he thought was probably not enough to if he had less than a 10, say if I had a 10 and he had less than that, or if he had a flush or a straight, either way, he would either raise me as a bluff or he would raise me as a value. Yeah, but I was going to get a raise hopefully if I made this small bet.
Yeah.
And that's what happened. He made a huge bet. I bet like 1.2 million. He made it 5 million to go.
Yeah.
I shoved. He obviously folded because all he had was 7s and 8s.
Yeah.
I think, he hit an 8 on the river, missed the straight draw. So so then all of a sudden,
yeah,
the chip lead completely shifted. I had a huge chip lead over the two of them, and I never really had to do anything clever to hold on to it. No. Really, it was just like
That's a key pot. That and the Jack 9 are maybe the two most important pots of the tournament for you.
Yeah, but for me they are, and obviously the final hand.
Yeah. But then you're already in the ship lead heads up. So
yeah.
Yeah, but it's a nice. Going back a bit, I said the first tournament I went to, starting working in the industry, was 2005, and the first tournament we went to, you were there. It was the Monte Carlo Millions. I checked it out. It was in November 2005. Now, you were one of the guys that they mentioned, the people that I worked with, and there's Barny Boatman, and there's Phil Ivey, and there's Andy Black, and so on. How established were you as a poker player back then, 2005?
It's great to be mentioned in the same breath as Phil Ivey. That's probably the first and last time that ever happened. I guess pretty established. I think that we had probably just started our relationship with Full Tilt then, and we played a heads-up challenge between the Hendon Mob and 4 of the big Full Tilt pros, including Phil Ivey, Chris Ferguson, and Howard Lederer, and Jesus, the one with the big hat.
Chris Ferguson, right?
Chris Ferguson.
Maybe Seidel or someone like that. Phil Gordon.
Who was the other one? I can't remember who the other one was right now, but I remember that festival very well. I remember having a deep run and then getting called into a massive pot, either very close to the money or when we were just in the money, and losing almost all my chips to like a 1 out or whatever, and then moving to another table short stack, and Tony G started like having a dig at me and trying to put me on tilt because I'd lost most of my chips, I did something that I've never done before or since at any poker table, or pretty much in my life actually, because he was being such an arsehole. I offered him out for a fight.
Did you really?
I said, you and me outside, and he went quiet, and he met me in the lift. He met me in the lift a little while later, and he said, all that, that I do, it's not personal. And I said, how is it not personal?
Yes.
You having a go at me? And he goes, oh, well, I'm sorry. And he put his hand out, and it was very sweet, and we shook hands. But I'm very glad he backed down, because he's a big pudding of a fella. I don't know. I must have been very annoyed to offer him out for a fight.
That's funny.
I'm glad there were no cameras there.
So you did
That's the
that.
thing I most remember about that tournament. Funnily
Oh,
enough.
that's funny. Yeah, well, he was extremely, would you say, obnoxious, or he was out to get you and trying to create a stir, right?
That was part of his game. He was doing that. He was also, trying to make a name for
Of
himself,
course.
and that's what uh, it was fine. He's a perfectly nice bloke, and people have got different views about what really goes. And the thing is, it was like I didn't really watch all his chips. I didn't know why he was bothering much. I didn't know why he was bothering with me. I had like one big blind or something like that, and he was sort of gloating and having a go and saying you're finished. I was like, no, what?
Yeah.
What's this about? But like that was funny. I mean, it was a great event. I mean, actually, I might be going. That's almost the last time I played in Monte Carlo. I think.
Right.
I kind of and I may have played one more. I don't think I even played again, but I'm gonna go this
Yeah,
year.
of course.
I mean,
You're qualified, right?
I mean, whether I'm qualified or not. I mean, PokerStar's put on the best events anyway, and then the EPT are the best PokerStar events, and the EPT main event is the best out of the EPT events, and that is, I don't know, if it's the best venue from the point of view of the value of the field or whatever, but it's the most prestigious
Yeah.
venue and all the rest of it, and um, I can't wait to go. It's very exciting to think that I can pick and choose now,
Yeah, but
and play whatever I want.
is that part? I remember WPT had that, but I'm not sure if EPT had that. That it's included in the price. I don't think it is anymore. That if you win an EPT
No,
event, you
no.
get the buy-in for the final.
Well, if that's the case, nobody's bothered to tell me. But no
That
one
would be a
tells me
surprise,
anything.
right?
I always find out about the players' part the next day, or they, we all went on a trip on a boat. Why didn't you come? What boat? So probably I don't know. Probably I've got a ticket. But I mean, I think that it used to be a 10K, didn't it?
Yeah.
And I think now I think it's going to be a 5K this year. It's like more like just another thing on the tour.
Well,
They're all great venues, aren't they? I mean, some of my, I mean, Monte Carlo as a place isn't my personal favourite by any means, but a lot of people love it, obviously. But they've got Barcelona, which is a personal favourite of mine. Prague is great. Paris is obviously wonderful.
yeah.
Cyprus, I haven't been to. I have been to Cyprus. I haven't
Hmm.
ever been to play at EPT there. And I think they've only just started doing it, haven't they? Um, and then was one more? What did I miss out? So Paris, Barcelona, Cyprus,
And Prague,
Prague.
and
Um,
uh, I don't know if there's one more. Is it? No, it's not
and
Eastern. It's not Rossadov or anything. I don't know. London?
anyway, I don't think there's London this year.
No, no. It was a year and a half ago.
Uh,
I was there. We met
yeah,
there.
yeah, no, that's right. We met there. I played in my. In fact, apart from this year in Paris, last year in Prague, and the year before in London, those are like the only EPTs I played for years and years.
Yeah.
I was kind of busy as well, and as well as obviously they're not. Um, it's not just small change to play if you're not qualifying online, which is obviously the best way to get to these things. But like, I think it was years and years and years. I wasn't doing much apart from playing in the World Series and one or two. Always try and make the Irish Open because I love
Right.
that.
It's a nice
Favourite
event.
event, maybe, yeah. And apart from the World Series and the Irish Open, maybe something down the Vic,
Yeah.
whatever. But very, very little. And then in the last year or two, I've started to pick up. I've had more time, uh, and things are going well as well in poker wise. And I've started to add more things onto the roster. And now, I can really play whatever I want for
Yeah,
a
yeah,
while at
yeah.
least. And
Do you go to a tournament like that, the last three EPTs, for example, or when you go to the World Series? Do you have 100% in yourself, or do you spread it a bit with your brother or some friends or anything like that?
um, It varies, but my brother's usually got a piece of me.
Yeah. Lovely Ross Boatman,
Usually,
huh? He's a nice
yeah,
brother,
good
isn't
old
he?
Russ. He's the best, and he's hopefully he's coming out to the World Series this summer. He's put in a request for a holiday from EastEnders, and I'm sure they wouldn't be so mean
No.
as to not let him go. They can write a story. They can send his characters to hospital for a couple of weeks or something like that. They got plenty of warning. I'm sure they can do it.
Yeah, maybe I should do an interview with Ross someday because through
Yeah,
the years, I have to say, Ross has always been top three of the nicest guys out there over the 20 years I've been out in the business. I mean, he's always so friendly. He look you in the eye, and he really cares.
yeah.
And then
No, he does. He
he
is.
was always, I wouldn't say struggling, but he was an actor, and then he got the break through EastEnders, didn't he? Like not that long
Uh,
ago.
well, I mean, I think he big break. I mean, he's done a lot for a long
Yeah,
time. It was in London's Burning, which was like the biggest British TV drama, in terms of viewers, like ever.
yeah.
So he's done a lot of things. But in recent years, the big break was a show called Mum,
Hmm.
which if you haven't seen it,
No.
you really it's absolutely brilliant. And it's kind of it's like comedic, but it's drama as well, and it's like
Is he like the
it's
son or
takes
something?
you.
Is he the son or the husband or?
He's the brother of the main character, but as I think they did like 3 series, and he became more and more of a main character. By the end, for me, he was the star of the show in the
Excellent.
last series.
I'm so happy to hear that.
Yeah, and it was like it's perfect for him to do like work with really strong actors. I mean, it's really good, well written drama, but it's also comedic, and he's really good at that,
Yeah,
at subtle comedy.
yeah. No, no, he's a really funny guy too. And was it room for improvisation of any kind or just the way he
Well,
acted in a humoric way?
I think, I mean, he's the one to ask, but I think the answer to that is that it was very carefully written, and it was, but like his part was written more and more for him, and there were times when it was like, you've got to show all this on your face
Yeah.
or whatever. You've got to act like you've just realised this,
Hmm.
and then the director and writer would trust that he would be able to do that,
Right.
and he did.
Right.
So I don't know, but I don't think much dialogue was improvised. But I think that they were, the actors were expected to know how their character would deliver the lines and the actions that they were given, and in a way, that's what acting is, right?
Yeah.
And he was very good at
Yeah,
it.
I should contact Ross again, and I
Yeah,
remember you mentioned it when we met in London a year and a half ago that he won the soap best newcomer.
I know
Age.
the newcomer.
Listen, isn't it his birthday today or something? I saw it today or tomorrow. He
He,
turns 60, right?
his birthday is the third,
Yeah,
yeah, and
tomorrow.
we're all going out for a meal in a pub, um, all the family and a couple of his friends, and
Excellent. Send,
that's going to be great.
yeah,
Yeah,
send my best regards to him.
I will do.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah. I'll catch up with him when he's a bit over 60 then.
you,
No, but going back those days when it was Ross and you, and of course the Hendon Mob was like an establishment, like a company that had kind of a buzz around it. When was it? When did you start the Hendon Mob?
excuse me. The Hendon mob kind of developed as a group of people. Really, I suppose, and people started calling us the Hendon mob in the mid to late '90s. By the time late night poker started, 1998, 99, 99, I think. That's already who we were, and we were talked about as being that. In the year 2000, we started the website,
Right, very early.
and that was, yeah, and it was just as a little fanzine, really.
Yeah,
And then it built and developed over time. And a lot of the idea about the website was partly just to promote the game in a general way, but also because we thought it might help us get sponsorship, which in the end,
Yeah.
it did.
It paid off
Um,
in the end. You got paid a little bit anyway for when it got bought
oh,
up.
hugely. Yeah, no, I mean, we really thought, that somebody, another group of people younger and better looking than us was going to pick up the benefits of what we were doing. And of course, that happened in the end. But we squeezed in for a couple of years and
Yeah.
got our piece of the
It
pie.
served you quite well. Was it Joe Beavers and Ramaswamy? Was it? No?
Yeah, and Ross and me. Yeah,
Were
yeah,
you
yeah.
the four of you, you and Ross, of course? Were you four like a group of friends that just hang out and played poker, or like a
Yeah, I
gang?
mean, uh, we we um we used to play in quite a lot in. There were two home games. There was the Archway game and the Hendon game. And my Ross and I had the Archway game, and Joe and Graham had the Hendon game, and their game was more serious. It was more like it was more like those Spielers are. Joe ran it a little bit more like a business than our game was more like a friendly home game, and so. Uh, People gravitated, people who wanted to play seriously gravitated more to Joe's game. And we were like the ever presence in the game. And we started to travel around Europe a little bit and around the UK and play in other events. And people would say, "Oh, here comes the Hendon mob." When it was like there were lots of mobs. There's the Birmingham mob and the Liverpool mob and the whatever the Dublin mob, and we were the Hendon mob. And
Was it
we
Beavers that
just
were from Hendon? Oh, I think I read somewhere.
Yes, that's right. Joe was the only one who actually lived in Hendon, and the game that we played in every week was in his house, in his flat.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it's funny how you still today. When I did some research on you to see some big scores you had through the years, and some of the early results. It goes back to '98, I think. That list. It's still the Hendon mob. It's still the Hendon mob you go to check out the history
yeah,
of caches and so on. Are you happy with the
yeah.
way it
That's
turned
right.
out?
Very, very. I mean, it got to the point where, especially when we no longer had sponsorship, where we had something which was like a business,
Right.
and Joe and I would be sitting in the office, and we had staff of people working, doing data entry and making amendments to the code of the database and things like that. And we could have carried it on as a business, but that's not who we were. It certainly wasn't who I was. And when Alex Dreyfus, the Global Poker
Yeah.
Index, came along and said that they were interested in taking it over, the timing was perfect for
Right.
us. And like the truth of the matter is that they probably would have done something anyway,
Right.
um, and they probably would have built something, and they had the resources. And they were buying like the brand, and they were buying the goodwill, and they were buying the work that had been done, and all the rest of it. And they made us, an extremely fair offer, and it was a really good time. And I'm just really delighted that because I think it would have fizzled away in our
Right.
hands.
Right.
We wouldn't have had we couldn't have kept it going, as in the way it was. I mean, we could have done
Yeah, but
if we had decided if we went that way, but it was never going to happen. So it was. I'm really really pleased that legacy is not wasted.
it's funny.
It's still there.
It's
Yeah,
2024 and it's still there and it's kind of looks the same in a way, which is very rare when it comes to internet
yeah,
phenomenons. Everything gets upgraded, but for some reason, all the users still like the look of it, the and so on. So it's great. It's really a legacy.
people like what they used to, don't they? I mean,
Yeah,
certainly us old folk.
yeah,
I mean, they're always completely like revamping websites, and then you just don't know where you are. It does my head in.
yeah,
I love that you can still, you can still just put the name in and all the stuff comes up, and
yeah,
it's great.
yeah,
It wasn't broke. Why should they? Yeah, I mean, obviously you do design updates here and there, and you add features, but like you say, the basic thing
mm,
is very strong, and the database itself is very well written and robust,
yeah.
and easy to add to.
Yeah, it's interesting with the first year after the Monte Carlo Millions in 2006. I remember the first EPT London I went to. It was the full where Vicky Corrin won it, and where
Yeah,
you
Vicky
went
Fry, yeah.
quite deep as well.
I did
Yeah,
until I came up against her.
yeah.
Yeah.
You I think you went
So
up against her. I watched it. You tried to bluff on her, didn't you?
I, what was I thinking? Yes. But yeah, I mean, I think it was. I mean, I gave her something to think about, and it was, and it wasn't an automatic pull for her. And I think that I was represent. I think that if I'd had the hand I was representing, I would have played it exactly the same
Yeah,
way.
yeah.
But in the end, there were a lot of chips in there. She had top pair. She knew what I was capable of, and
I,
despite everything, despite everything that was at stake,
yeah,
she was able to think it through and make the call. And I remember saying in my interview afterwards, people don't realise how good she is. I think she's going to win this,
yeah, yeah.
and I couldn't have been happier
No,
that I was right.
it's funny how I looked that up because I was there. It was like my fifth tournament. And but do you remember that, or have you looked back on it recently to remember that, or is it still there?
What, that hand or the
I
event?
mean, the hand and the event and that you went up to her against. Did you watch it recently, or do you just remember it?
I mean, it's not my favourite hand to watch, partly because my hair looks awful. um, but for some reason, it's all kind of flat over my back. But yeah, obviously, I remember it, and funny enough, I remember a hand which only I would know. I don't know if I've ever mentioned this to anyone before, but like earlier on, not that much earlier than that hand. I was on another table with Vicky on my right and Ram Biswani on my left, and Ram was short. And Vicky raised on the button, and I had aces on the small blind. And I decided to just flat, and I thought if I just flatted, Ram would shove a lot of hands because of the size of his stack.
Yes.
But Ram just folded, and it came an ace high flop. And I never managed to get another penny out of Vicky, and she had queens.
Oh my god!
And if we'd got it in, it would have been. I think I had a covered as well. So that's kind of like that hand isn't in her book because she doesn't know about it. But like because I decided to get traffic with a pair of aces.
That I mean, if you would raise there like you would many times, the history would be different. Things would turn out differently.
So I'm very glad I didn't. Because everything's worked out lovely.
Oh, that's great. That's great, Barney. That's funny. And have you seen the movie Sliding Doors?
Yeah, I know the one you mean. But I mean, poker and a poker tournament in particular is completely littered with those sliding door moments, isn't it? Every hand, everything. Every time you cough and the dealer shuffles one more time, whatever. I mean, life is like that anyway. But poker is just the absolute, nut version of that.
And maybe that's one of the things that makes us love the game in a bit. That it's really things gonna change if I do this or do that, and I'm not mean only this hand. It's gonna put like what do you call that? The flaps that creates echoes around.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's right. The butterflies.
Yeah, there it is.
Yeah, but yeah. I mean, that's why you can't lose too much sleep over, over things. I mean, obviously, what you do lose sleep over as a player is when you realise you made a mistake, and that mistake was costly. And you'll run over things in your head, over and over again, and think about it, and and sometimes you'll just try and reach back into the past and change it, and you can't do it. But like in the end, it's a game. There are cards that come out. Sometimes you get rewarded for making a bad decision. Sometimes you make a sodic call, and you're right, or you're wrong and you're out. And in the end, you just have to remember that over time, if you keep on making the right decisions, that probably things are going to go better for you more of the time.
Yeah, like in life, Barney, isn't it? Isn't it? Yeah. Even if you get punished when you do a really nice decision sometimes in life as well, eventually is going to pay off. I think making the right decisions.
Hope you would like to think so.
It sounds like a noble
I
thing
mean,
to think.
yeah,
You said that you lost sleep there. I mean, a lot of poker players have not similar, but kind of similar ways of thinking and looping. You know, I call it looping sometimes when you take the same thought over and over.
yeah.
Are you a thinker? Is that why you can't sleep, or what is it?
Yeah, it's always been very hard for me to switch off.
Yeah,
You may have noticed. But
what
like,
is it then? What is it? I mean, personal thoughts and so on, or what is it that haven't you taught yourself to let go of this? I mean, you're 68. Come on, Barney, it's time.
I've been an insomniac all my life, and it's not. Yeah, I do have things I do to deal with it, but I think that like an intense focus tournament, you know, where you've just got through to the end of day 4 as chip leader after having made a kind of higher wire decision, it's not the kind of, you know, the most likely scenario where you're going to get, you know, long, easy night's sleep. I mean, funnily enough, I think most poker players will tell you when they sleep best is when they've gone skinny.
Yeah.
You know, you know, that was kind of like the opposite of that. But, you know, I could have been thinking about anything. I don't know. But like, it's always hard for me to switch off mentally. But like, I managed the following night,
Yeah.
and yeah, and I was very, very relaxed in the final.
Yeah.
It was, you know, it was quite. I mean, partly it was just because I felt, well, whatever happens now, this is fantastic. Once we got to three-handed, it was just about the biggest cash I'd ever had in my life already. It was bigger than my bracelet in Vegas in terms of money already at three-handed. And like, you know, if I'd gone out third,
great. I mean,
I would have walked away with a smile on my face. Not quite as big as the one that, you know. I think the second in the way, funnily enough, second might have been a bit harder to play.
Yeah.
In the way, yeah, but like, you know, no, I mean, yeah, you know, I remember thinking from the moment I went back on day 5 with, you know, chip leader with 18 out, you're going to make sure you get a top 3 finish. You know, obviously, anyone can say that kind of thing for themselves, and it, you know, in the end, you know, it plays out the way it plays out. You know, if you get cornered, you can make mistakes. But, you know, my approach, and certainly my approach going into the final day was, you know, I'm not even going to, you know, I'm not going to get involved in any big hands of the other two until the other 3 have gone.
Right.
You know, this is, you know, it seemed obvious, you know, 9 times out of 10 that we would, you know, that would be the 3. And I already thought, and that's huge, and if that's where it finishes up. If I don't mess it up and come out 4th or 5th, then I'm going to go home really, really happy.
Yeah.
You know?
That's a very good way to approach it at that point. And if there comes to a big pot, fine. But then you will have good cards. Then you will have a good hand. Yeah.
And that's kind of, in fact, indeed, that is what happened. You know, but that was during the 3-handed. But yeah, it just, you know, sometimes it's your time, isn't it? You know, I mean,
have you already looked through it? Have you already gone back and watched the whole thing? Because it's on YouTube, I think, all of it.
I've watched quite a few bits of it, and fast forwarding through and looked for bits that I was interested to see what had happened and stuff like that. And you know, it's nice.
Of course it is.
The commentators, and particularly Maria Ho, I think, was very, very kind about me, and I was really quite chuffed, you know. But you know, I became a bit of a fan after watching Game of Gold, and I hadn't played with her much or watched her play much prior to that, and I thought she was very good in that. I'm not somebody, I should do, but I'm not someone who watches streams much, and I'm going to start doing a bit more because I realised how much you do learn from it. But, you know, it was really nice having her talk through hands that I'm in.
She's an excellent analyst.
Yeah. It really, you know, you know, it's a great way of, you know, it's far better than just watching it back and thinking, oh yeah, come on, come on, the ace on the turn, whatever. But just what, you know, having her discuss what would be exactly the right play to be in this situation and why. And either you do it or you don't do it. But like, it's like having a really good coach sitting in your
Definitely.
shoulder. Yeah, I'd love to just like play loads of live poker and have people of her caliber commentating on it and then watch it back.
Yeah.
Fantastic.
No, well, I mean, some people look at streams to study their coming opponents or past opponents to learn from next time you meet.
Yeah.
But your main issue was to learn from yourself, to see how you acted in certain
I mean,
situations.
obviously at the time, at the time when you're playing, if you get a chance to see things other people are doing, that's huge. But I mean, I still trust more the information I get at the table. There's a different quality to
Yeah.
it somehow, and obviously it's really good sometimes to find out what did someone have. And I found out a couple of times on the stream and a couple of times not on the stream that I'd made people lay down bigger hands than I had credited them for.
Yeah, there was.
Um,
Yeah.
uh, and that was really interesting. I mean, or they certainly they had right. One particular one where I had raised under the gun with ace 10 of hearts, and the guy behind me had flatted, and it had come like 997 or something like that, and with one heart. And I led out small, and the guy raised me, and I just thought, well, he's obviously got like a underpair to the
Yeah.
flop, and he just wants to know where he is, and he wants to get me to lay down overcards, and he wants to establish the value of his own hand, and if he wants to know where he is, I'll show him where he is, and I raised him
Yeah.
back, thinking I'd get him off a small pair. And then I found out afterwards that he's thrown away jack.
Yeah, which is amazing.
And of course, from where he's sitting, basically, I'm telling I've got what I'm saying I've got,
Yeah.
it's not, the fact that he's stronger than I think he is in a way it's neither here nor there, because if I've got what I'm saying I've got aces, kings, or queens.
Yeah.
I'm not doing it with so it's not. I'm not saying he made a bad laydown, but I probably wouldn't have attempted if I'd known what he had. I would not have attempted that play.
No.
So sometimes being wrong can make it
Yeah,
right.
yeah. It was the only way to win the pot. It was absolutely the only way to win the pot.
Well, I could call him here.
Yeah, of course, but with of course.
But yeah, sometimes.
Yeah, but then you need luck. No, it was really good. It looked really cool. You looked really like you knew what you were doing there.
But then I had exactly the same coup almost against another player. It played out slightly differently. This one, no, it was different because like he's raised and I've re-raised with 10-8 of spades, and he's flatted, and it's come almost an identical flop, and he's check called me on the flop, and again I thought, okay, he's check called me because he's got sixes or something. And or whatever, or he's got top pair on the flop, and he hopes he's got whatever. And if I bet again on the turn, he's going to go away. And same thing, he did. He threw away jacks as well on a like a 9 high or a 10 high board. But I had another one which was actually more interesting, which wasn't on the TV table, and it was shortly before. I first went on the stream, I think. Like it might have been the beginning of day 4 or something like that, where somebody's raised under the gun, someone else has called, and I've called with pocket sixes, and then someone else has called. At least one other person has called in the blinds, maybe 2. We're 4 or maybe even 5 to the flop, and the under the gun, the raiser bets, and the next guy flats on a flop. That's like 10-10-5, I think it is. Yeah, 10-10-5 was the flop. So the first guy bets, second guy raises, and I think to myself, okay, He's trying to find out where he is with his pocket pair. He's probably ahead of me because I've only got sixes. But I'm calling, see what happens there. And I call. Everybody else gets out of the way, including the pre-flop raiser. So it's just me and the guy who raised on the flop. And the turn comes an ace, and he checks. And I thought, well, there's never a world in which the ace is good for him, I don't think. If he's just got two pair hand here, a bet will do it for me. And I bet, and he fought for a while and he called. And the river came a 7, and he checks again. And I thought, well, I don't think I'm winning, but I don't think he can call if I make a big bet. And I made an almost pot-sized bet. And he thought for a little while, not for long, and he threw away the open jacks.
Jacks again.
So it was jacks again. It was jacks again.
Wow.
And again, I think that time I was less surprised that was the case.
Yeah.
You
thought he had something like that. You want to get him off jacks or even queens, but
well, it was like 3 hands, and it was always jacks. And people talk about jacks being the hardest player and all that, but I guess they are. I mean, in situations like that, they look like a big pair, then suddenly they feel like a small pair or whatever. I mean, I think the guy in that one, he had to fold.
Right.
It was like, because I can have a 10, I can have an ace, I could have flopped a house, I could have turned a house, whatever. But the other ones were more like, I was polarized, and they didn't want to. And they didn't want to call the old fella.
Yeah.
And now my cover's been blown again.
Do you think that it's good for your mind in particular that you've been playing poker just to keep you sharp?
What are you trying to say? That I'd probably have dementia if I wasn't playing poker?
No, let's say that you are quick to think, whatever your age is. And continuing to play poker, you know what I mean?
Absolutely. And they say that they're doing crosswords and quizzes and anything like that is keeping your brain active is good. It works for me. And I think even bigger than that is the fact that I still enjoy it.
Right.
I couldn't slog away. And just turn up and play, even if I thought I was good, if it was just a job, I mean, I used to be a computer programmer and I could have made a good living doing that, and it was just a case of, doing it to make a living, and I wasn't enjoying it. I would have stopped a long time ago. I mean, you're right. I'm retirement age. I've got an old person's bus pass, but what am I going to do? I love it.
It's excellent, and I mean, usually you don't see much. Being in the poker industry is kind of do you say secluded? I don't know if that's the right word. It's a private area for people who are not into poker. It's a very closed community in many ways. So usually players come to a tournament and they leave, and you don't know much about them. You had your fiancée or girlfriend. I mean, you're quite private usually, but when it comes to the poker community, right?
I am, and so is she actually. But sometimes you can't avoid a little bit of your private life leaking into the world around you.
Do you mind?
I don't. I mean, listen, I'm not on Facebook. I'm very social and very open, but like I prefer not to make my private life a topic of debate or entertainment or whatever you call it. But I'm delighted. It's normal that people know who you're with, right? That's not a big deal. And it's really nice. I'm with somebody who also loves the game and loves to come to events and is very knows very well the world that I'm in, which previous partners that wouldn't have been the case.
Right.
And that's nice in a different way, because but this is better.
Yeah, it is.
This is a lot better. It was lovely that she was there and sharing that moment.
Yeah. And also something to get out of the little poker bubble, just to look at someone that you like that is not play in the
Yeah,
game, and to share it
yeah,
with.
no, that's very true. That's very true. I mean, as much as I've got a lot, and of course, Ross always was that for me in many ways, but as much as I've got lots of great friends on the poker scene, and the poker stars family are really great, and and they're all the people who regularly go and do their events. I know a lot of the dealers and all sorts of people, and it's great. But obviously, there's no substitute for having somebody that you're really close to that you go back home with, or even go back to your hotel room with,
Yeah,
and talk about other things, and escape from that for a little
yeah,
while. So
excellent.
that's
Now, I remember Barry Greenstein wrote about that, which was kind of a controversial subject, but he mentioned how important that is in just to put your mind away from the percentages
yeah.
and all that. And maybe, did you have time to enjoy Paris at all during this stay?
Well, we had that day 1B. We had off completely, and we went around and did some touristy stuff. Went to the Ile de la Cité and saw all the scaffolding around the cathedral there, and we went to the Pompidou Centre and it was closed. And no, but we had a nice day walking around and having coffee and eating in a fish restaurant, and then actually it was lovely that after the main event wound up quite early on the Sunday, um, and the Barrier who run the event invited us to dinner,
Right.
and they've got a really nice restaurant right next to the Barrier Club on the Champs
Yeah.
Elysees, Phuket, I think it's
Yeah.
called, and they made us a reservation there, and we went and had a really really nice, relaxed, very happy dinner in a really nice restaurant, and that's obviously that's one of the things you want to do in Paris,
Right.
right?
Right.
And so yeah, I didn't get to see as much of it as I would have done if I hadn't gone to sleep, but I can live with that.
Yeah. Yeah. It's a good
It's
punishment.
only
It's a good punishment for
it's
being.
only down the road. The train you get there really quickly. And I was reminded, the long time since I've been to Paris. I was reminded how
It's
easy it is, and
just a
we're
train
probably
trip. Yeah.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
excellent. No, I went on that trip, the Eurotunnel trip there as well, and it's really cool when in London to be able to go to Paris easy like that. Yeah.
Unbelievable. I remember seeing there was some Australian bloke on the telly being interviewed. I think it was a comedian, and he said they said to him, "What's the best thing about England?" And he said, "France." I
So
thought it
Australian.
was a great answer. Yeah, I mean, it's funny because it's having a dig at the Poms, but it's also making the point that
Yeah.
that Australians are so isolated from anywhere
Yeah.
else that the idea that you can just pop to another
Yeah.
country is just
It
mad for
is.
them.
It
Yeah,
is. Some Americans visiting Europe is what they say as well, that it's so close. You go to Barcelona and then to Paris and then to Berlin, and it's just a few hours between. And especially being Australia, where should you go? Ayers Rock. I mean, there's nowhere to go. Melbourne.
come on.
Yeah.
Listen, it's a beautiful
Yeah. Yeah.
country.
Hmm.
But I think Perth
Yeah.
is the furthest place away from any other
Yeah.
place in the world. But in terms of like a bit of houses and civilization or
Yeah.
whatever, it is very spread out
Yeah.
on
It
the
is.
on the
It
coast.
is. Yeah. I was there many years
Big
ago.
place.
Maybe I should go back someday. But
In fact, I remember being sat next to an Australian on a plane flying on the way to Austria, and he was talking about, and he was saying, yeah, I thought while I was here, I might as well go to America as well. And
that's funny.
by here, he meant the Northern
Yeah.
Hemisphere,
Yeah.
obviously.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
here. Sorry, no, go on
No,
anyway.
no, no, but that's funny because it's such a huge country down there. It's like, I think it's the size of Europe more or less, Australia,
Yeah,
and
yeah,
we sometimes you forget that we live in a quite dense continent, Europe, and you should travel more, and especially going to tournaments. I mean, you've been to many tournaments. Have you been to the Aussie Millions?
Yes,
Yeah,
yeah, a few
yeah.
times, few
Even
times.
if it was a few
I mean,
years back,
actually,
right?
yeah, I mean, we kind of helped promote that in the
Right,
beginning, and we did the original poker ashes
right.
as part of the first Aussie Millions tournament, and that was a heads up challenge between us and a team of 4 Australian players that was captained by this guy Billy
Yeah,
Lacrosse,
yeah, yeah, yeah. I
who used
remember
to
him.
wear a
Yeah.
crocodile hat, and we won, and they barbecued his hat, uh, and what's his name? The really big Australian cricket player who played poker.
Shane Ward.
Shane Shane Warne. He was the one who barbecued the hat
Ah,
for us.
excellent.
And that became the poker ashes. Yeah, so that we were always coming up with little things like that to try
Yeah.
and promote the game and promote ourselves and promote events
Yeah.
yeah, we went back. In fact, I was I final tabled the Aussie Millions main event twice,
Right.
but never had a big score with it. But
It used to be a really big event of
yeah,
the year, one of the main events to go to for the big players.
yeah,
Now,
yeah,
I think it's pretty cool because sometimes you tend to talk about the years from before and the 2000s and the early years and so on, but it's really refreshing to see a guy who were around then to remind us of that the guys that's been around for a while still can play a bit. That's why your win
yeah.
was something extra here in Paris, I think.
I know people did. There was a bit of that. There's some Oscar Wilde quote that I can't remember, but it's something about it's not the fact that you do it well, but it's the fact that you do it at all.
Hmm.
Like a monkey riding a bicycle or
Yeah.
something like that. Yeah, it's just impressive that it happens at
Yeah.
all. That I'm alive and
Yeah.
playing. So yeah. I mean, I'm happy that people like that. I mean, it's true that I am. I'm not. I don't have all the qualities that the top young players have with the rest of it. But I'm happy that on my day, what I do is good enough to get me there sometimes.
Excellent, Barney. Excellent. Now, it was really nice to talk to you. I mean, it feels like there's so many topics, and if you just look around a bit, there's topics to talk about forever, isn't it, Barney?
Of course, yeah, and well, let's do this again
Yeah, yeah,
sometime.
yeah. We should really do that, and enjoy the dinner with your lovely brother Ross. And as I said, send my
Yes,
best,
I
and
will
we'll see.
do. Yeah,
We'll meet in a tournament soon, or we have another talk further down the road after the next big win
yeah,
for you.
absolutely. Well, if you can wait that long, yeah, okay, likewise.
Excellent, Barney. Take
Cheers.
care now, and we talk
Thanks a
soon
lot.
again.
Thanks. All the best. Bye.
Thanks for listening to this talk with Barny Boatman. Wasn't it great? Especially the episode with back in 2005, we wanted to fight Tony G. Wouldn't that be something, huh? Talking about changing the history. You never know what would have happened. Barney is a great man. It was great talking to him, and I hope you liked it.